Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Dr. T, living your best life here in the Philippines. I thought I'd do this video and maybe I could save you a lot of time, hassle, and hopefully some money in the process. On if you decided to buy a motorcycle slash scooter here in the Philippines, which one should you look at or which one should you consider? Again, I'm not a motorcycle channel, but like I said, my goal on this channel is to help you live your best life, and part of that involves obviously not spending a lot of senseless money. So I'm going to kind of touch on a few things and kind of tell you my thought process and some of the scooters that I've driven. And you've seen on the other video I had a Honda PCX, that black one. I did a video on how to buy a motorcycle in the Philippines. So let's jump to the next step. You know how to buy one, you decided to buy one, and now you're going to buy one, and what are you going to buy and why should you get this particular model or another particular model. All right, so I rented several times a Honda Click 125cc, and I rented a Suzuki Bergman 125. I owned the Honda PCX, which is 160cc. And now I have this, which is an Aerox. It's a 155cc. So I'm going to tell you about those, what led me to the PCX, and then what led me to this. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you what I think my personal favorite scooter would be here in the Philippines and why. All right, guys, had to change location. So if you notice, I'm wearing a different outfit and we're in a different spot, but this spot's actually better. I was filming and there's a church across the street and they started doing like their singing and prayers, but they broadcast it over a PA system and it was incredibly loud. So anyway, all right, so why would you pick a particular scooter? All right, so let's start with the Honda Click. I'm going to kind of cover a lot, so stick with me to the end because I want to give you my final thoughts on what I think based on all my experience driving all these things over the last almost year led me to why I think that one is the particular, maybe the best one. All right, so let's start with the Honda Click. The Click is by far the most common scooter here in the Philippines. It's a nice little motorcycle. I've rented a bunch of them. They're cheap. They're about 82,000 pesos, but cheap for US dollars. So very inexpensive, 82,000, 82.5, I think something like that is the current price on them. For brand new, there's a million of them here. Everywhere you go, you're going to see Honda Clicks. They ride okay, in my opinion, in that the steering is weird. They're really small. I'm not going to go over all the specs. Like I said, I'm not a motorcycle channel, but just take it from me. The riding is very odd on the Click. The front end feels flimsy, not stable would be the best way to sum it up, especially if you're coming from like a motorcycle to a scooter. It felt very toy-like to me, and I know maybe that sounds silly, but it felt very kind of cheap and toy-like. The upside of the Click, one, like I said, is the price. Two is the weight. So for small Filipina females, the Clicks are great. So I'm going to come back to that because that was one of my deciding factors on why I ended up with this Aerox. So next, I would say on the list that I rented, and you see really common here in the Philippines, is the Suzuki Bergman. And the Bergman is bigger than the Click, like longer. Oh yeah, the other downside of the Click, sorry, it would be the legroom. The legroom is really small, so your legs end up being bent up like on a 90-degree angle for me, and I'm not that tall. I'm 5'11", so for a foreigner, I'm not incredibly tall. So I was not comfortable on the Click. So the Bergman has more legroom. The front, the floorboard here is stretched out further, where you can kind of stretch your legs a little further on the Bergman. So that was definitely nice. The downside on the Bergman, I felt the engine had no pickup. I mean, I get it, it's a scooter, it's not a sports bike, but even compared to the Click, the Bergman had like substantially less pickup when you go to give it gas. So the Click felt peppier. The other handling, I say, was kind of loose on the Bergman, and I'm comparing similar miles on each motorcycle from what I remember. So that just the overall, maybe the overall quality on the Bergman felt maybe slightly a touch lower than it was on the Click. Price is about the same, maybe a touch more. I think they're about 86,000 pesos right now in the Philippines. Next would be, oh yeah, the PCX, the Honda PCX, the black one that you've seen in that video. I loved that as a scooter. I liked it and I bought it because it was bigger. It's a 160cc versus the Click is a 125. They do make a 160cc Click, which has the same engine, but it's also the same length, as in it's small and uncomfortable for me. So I didn't see the purpose of getting the Click 160. So I ended up back in November getting the Honda PCX, that black one, if you watched the other video. And I liked it. It's much roomier, has much more leg room. Under the seat storage is absolutely huge. Like you could do full grocery shopping and leave it under the seat. And that was one of the big deciding factors. All those things, it was comfortable. I figured having the 160cc engine was good. And it actually is. And I talked about that on another video. Here in the Philippines, despite what some of the comments on my big bike video want you to believe, like I said on that video, 70–80% of the population here drives scooters. And by scooters, I mean Honda Clicks, Suzuki Bergmans, and really old scooters from like the 1980s. And you don't see a lot of big CC. Really, honestly, you don't see anything bigger than like a MT-03, an R3. Sometimes you'll see 650s. Very, very, very rare you're gonna see 1000cc bikes and up. So most people drive scooters. So a 160 PCX had more than enough pickup really to do almost anything I needed it to do. I took that bike all over the place. I went all over Bohol, literally all over Bohol with it, different waterfalls. Off-road was pretty decent. So that's what leads me to my next thing. The suspension on it was pretty decent. It hit bumps pretty well. You can go on some pretty rough dirt roads, believe it or not. But that was one of the deciding factors why I ultimately decided to sell it. Really, the big one was weight, just the size. Like I said, the PCX is bigger, it's longer, it's heavier. So my girlfriend, you've seen on other videos, I'm gonna have her come in and show you this one here in a second. She's really tiny, she's 40 kilos. So that's like 90 pounds for Americans. So she's really tiny, she's 5 foot tall, and the PCX was big and heavy, and it has a wide seat, so it makes it even harder to drive for somebody that's not tall. And it's heavy, so once you start to lose a little bit of the stability on it, it's hard for her to hold it up. So she ended up dropping it several times and scraping it up. So it was just too big and heavy. And I had another motorcycle. If you watch my other video, I had the I think it was the Yamaha R3 at that time, which I've since sold. But so I was driving that most of the time, and she was just learning to drive, and now she's good on the scooter. But so my point on that is, the way I would think about these is the Honda PCX is great, but if you're going to have a Filipina, a small, and most Filipinas are pretty small, they're substantially shorter than US women and tend to be pretty thin. So the Honda Clicks are great, the Bergman. Once you get up into the 160, Honda makes an ADV, and I'm going to come back to that. And Suzuki makes what's called an NMAX. NMAX is almost totally comparable, I would say, to the Honda PCX. When I was looking, I was between the NMAX and the Honda PCX. I ultimately went with the PCX just because from what I've seen on all the reviews, if you can find reviews in English, the Honda had a little bit more pickup, it was a little quicker than the NMAX. The NMAXs are great. It's real similar proportions, similar weight, similar horsepower, torque, etc. So I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those two. But this is the big but you have to remember is, like I said, size and weight. So if you're going to have a girlfriend or wife trying to drive one of these, I would steer you clear of the NMAX and the PCX unless she's taller and has some strength to stop it from falling over if she gets in a tricky predicament. So that's what led us to here. So having said all that, the Yamaha Aerox, and I've been real happy with this. We just got it, I don't know, about a month ago, 5-6 weeks maybe, something like that now. So this is a 125, right? Or no, 155, sorry, correction, 155. That's why we ended up with this one. This is a 155cc Yamaha Aerox, and there's two different models. This one has the smart key. It's like a keyless fob and a connect. You can connect your phone to it, so it costs a little more. It's like 143, 144 pesos, and they make a version that doesn't have those things. I think they're 124 or something like that. So this one, believe it or not, it's only, I think is it 20 kilos lighter than the PCX? Or maybe it's 10 kilos. It's only 10 kilos, sorry. It's only 10 kilos lighter than the PCX, but it feels substantially lighter. I don't know if it's because the proportions where the engine and transmission are at in relationship to the suspension, etc. But it feels lighter to me. It feels much lighter to her. So she can drive this thing 10 times better than I think she could on the PCX. On the PCX, I don't think she ever really looked comfortable on it. She kind of always looked like she couldn't really, it was too big for her, really. So when we got this, she can drive it much, much better, and it still has a 155cc engine. I will say that the PCX had a little more pickup, and we both agree on that, than this. This one vibrates less than the Honda. The Honda PCX, they don't vibrate a lot because they're a scooter, right? It's not like a big motorcycle, but there was vibration on the handlebars that you did notice, and the engine didn't seem quite as smooth, believe it or not, as the Yamaha. So that's the upside. This engine is like silky smooth, like zero vibration in the bars. It drives great. It has big tires on it, bigger than the PCX, wider. So it handles really nice. Believe it or not, it handles really, really well. So that was the upsides of this. That's what led us here. So I'm gonna just show you kind of like I said, remember that she's 5 foot tall and 40 kilos. And I'll kind of show you how she is on the bike. And I can show you how I am on the bike real quick. And then I'll wrap up with what I think, I think the two best scooters are. Okay, so all right. I know I'm getting on the wrong way, but I didn't want to walk around in front of the video. So this is me on the bike. It has a real wide seat. It's real light to me, obviously. But so let's have her come over, and we'll have her take a step on this thing, and you can kind of see how she is on the bike. So yeah, she can't really flat foot, but she can maneuver it around. That's the hard part about driving in the Philippines isn't even the crappy roads and the dogs and the traffic and all that stuff. That's one of the hard parts, but the parking is real bizarre in most places you go to. So you're parking on like dirt roads, gravel, maybe up a hill, maneuvering around all kinds of crap. So you have to be able to maneuver these things in little tight spaces. So that was the other thing, that she can actually move this thing around. So yeah, you feel better on this thing, right, than the PCX, I would say. She doesn't want to talk.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more comfortable, but honest.
Oh yeah, you said the seat was more comfortable on the PCX,
yeah, the PCX
though, right?
is more comfortable, the seat, because it's feel like I'm sitting on a couch.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the seat on the PCX was more comfortable for both of us. We both kind of agreed on that.
Yes, guys.
But yeah, and you did think the PCX had a little more pickup than this, right? A little more pickup in the
more faster, way
Uh-huh.
faster, and but overall, this is very great.
Okay. Cool. Say thank you to the lovely assistant.
See,
Okay,
exit button.
yeah. All right, so my top two, after, like I said, driving lots of these different things around the Philippines, I would say if you're going to have a girlfriend or wife drive your scooter as well, or maybe you want to teach her, she wants to learn, this would be the one to get, in my opinion, because it's big enough for a guy that's a little taller, It still has enough pickup with the bigger engine. And the legroom is a little more than the Click, not quite as much as the Bergman, but it does have more legroom than the Click, and it drives substantially better than the Click. And I mean substantially better, night and day difference, better than the Click. So I would suggest this. If it was only going to be yours, as in a guy's, and a girl's not going to drive it, I would say the Honda ADV, and I didn't talk about that one yet. It's almost like the PCX, and in hindsight, I wish I would have just got one of those and then maybe just got a smaller scooter in addition to that one. Because the Honda ADV, I won't go over all the specs, but it's exactly like the PCX, but has much better suspension. It has a much better rear set of shocks on it, and it's a little more aggressive looking in the look, and it looks a little more stylish in my opinion. They're priced real similar. Right now they're $165. I was just looking a couple weeks ago. There's a lot of those here actually. They're real popular with foreigners. So my advice would be Honda ADV, hands down. The 160. They make a Honda ADV 350, but that's not sold in the Philippines yet. A lot of people are hoping that it comes here, but right now in almost June of 24, it is not sold here. So the Honda ADV 160cc, my pick would be hands down that, unequivocally, I think is the best scooter. If you're going to have it be something that you're both going to drive, I would say Yamaha NMAX. So, all right. I know, like I said, I probably covered a lot, but I don't want to turn this into, I've done a couple motorcycle things, so I don't want to do a lot of motorcycle content. But like I said, my goal is to save you time, save you money, save you a lot of research, because I've done all the research. I've watched tons of YouTube videos, reading articles, and like I said, I didn't test drive these things. I rented multiple of them on many different occasions before I started buying and kind of experimenting with motorcycles and scooters, etc. So I think I could save you a lot of hassle. So take my advice for what you think it's worth, and I hope that helps you. All right, guys, like and subscribe and say thanks to the assistant. All right, see you guys.